Okay, we should be up and running now. What's up, everybody? Hopefully you guys had an awesome Friday night and your Saturday is off to a wonderful start. Click that thumbs up button. Let's talk about tonight's NBA DFS slate, and we'll talk about a little bit NFL later on as well. All right, you can see by who made the cover today and just by knowing that Jaylen Brown is out. We got to talk about the Boston Celtics a little bit. Before we get into that, though, obviously, weekly and monthly memberships available at the website link below. Love to have you guys as full members. You know how to get there. First play up, let's talk about Shake Milton. I think most of you guys who have followed the channel kind of religiously know I'm a fan of his game. I like what he brings to the table. You know, the kid can boogie. He's got moves. He's a decent shooter. You know, Ben Simmons, clearly at this point, we don't really know what's going on, but it looks like they're just kind of like moving on from him, or however they're going to handle this. We don't really know. But look for Milton and Maxey to be kind of the point guards on this team for the time being. They moved Milton into the starting lineup the other day. And if you just click on the game log, you can see the big rise in the number of minutes that he played. So early on this year, he's averaging just over 1 DraftKings point per minute. Well, with his new resurgence of minutes, and they were very cautious with him the first handful of games. He was coming off of an injury. He wasn't in his best conditioning shape, but they moved him into the starting lineup. He played over 30 minutes, 34. I can't remember exactly, but it was over 30 minutes. So just prognosticating on who we think he is as a player. And I think he is about a point per minute player. If he's playing in the 30s in this matchup, he's way too cheap. He's shooting guard eligible. He's going to be popular. Give me some Shake Milton in my cash lineups. And honestly, I like him enough to play him in GPPs too. Next up, DeAndre Ayton. Yes, it's a very, very young guy. He does look like he's 100 years old, but DeAndre Ayton is starting to play a lot better. So I think like the first 3 games of the year, he didn't look great. He didn't play that well. The last 3, even with some foul issues in one of the games, he's been crushing value. Okay matchup with Atlanta. Atlanta used to be a crush spot. Since McMillan came over there, they're now I would label them a mediocre matchup. It's got real upside at this price. This should be a competitive game. I know the modern NBA has a lot of blowouts with the 3-point shooting swaying things, but I mean, you would think this would be a decent game, so he should get a full allotment of minutes, assume that he stays out of foul trouble, of course. So I like what I'm seeing from Ayton. I think he's better than a 6,500 player, so I think his price tag came down due to a couple of less than stellar games, and I just think he's too cheap for who he is and what he can bring. I think you still get him at pretty good value, and while he'll be owned, I don't think he's like uber chalk. He'll definitely be double digits ownership percentage and everything like that, but I don't think you're getting him at 80% or anything like that. Next up, cover boy Dennis Schroeder. I mean, this one's tough to avoid, right? No Jaylen Brown, so that opens up 15, 20 shots for other players in the Boston Celtics to take. Schroeder is obviously a prime candidate to absorb a couple of those, as well as some of the usage of Jaylen Brown. It's a very, very, very fair price tag at only $5,400. Kind of like with DeAndre Ayton, I look at Dallas as a very mediocre matchup. It's not a tough matchup. It's not the easiest one. Just very middle of the road. So Schroeder would have been in play with Brown playing. With Brown out, I think you just eat this chalk and move on. We've seen Schroeder with bad games, with the Lakers, Thunder, things like that, where he would fill in a situation like this and not be great. It's possible. We've also seen him ball to the max in this situation. So I'm more worried about him giving you 38 at high ownership than I am of him giving you 18 and trying to take advantage of that. So while that's plausible, we've seen this happen before. It's not the likely scenario. I think the likely scenario is for him that he gets at least 30 DK points tonight at very high ownership. So probably just chalk, I'll eat, and move on somewhere else. All right. Well, speaking of the flip side, let's talk about long shots. And I want to be clear and obvious on this one. Like, Marcus Smart's not a long shot today. He's only a long shot in the way I want to talk about him. Even that's a stretch at best. So if anybody wants to make a comment and complain about him not being a long shot, you're right and I'm wrong. No doubt about it. So Smart is projected currently for like 1/3 of the ownership of Dennis Schroeder. So I think it's an interesting pivot. If you want to talk intangibles and narrative, we like the intangibles that Marcus Smart brings. Narrative, he called out his teammates the other day, blah, 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 blah. Marcus Smart is not a great shooter, but every once in a while, he's got those monster 3-point shooting games. Could happen tonight. I don't think he's like likely to go off, but he's also not likely to like murder your lineup either. So there is a safety in the floor right there. knowing, again, there is no Jaylen Brown. So those shots are going to go to Tatum, Horford, Smart, Schroeder. They still have a pretty loaded lineup over there at Boston. So I think Smart will still be double-digit ownership percentage. So it's not like you're getting like a low-owned guy, but he is going to be a long shot compared to Dennis Schroeder based on ownership. So he's due for a big game. I think you can play them both together. And while I think Dennis Schroeder is a lock for my lineup, for those of you guys who like to play a little bit more, what's the best way to phrase this? A little more contrarian, I do think Smart over Schroeder is an interesting call. Next up, let's talk about Norman Powell. Once again, not a long shot in the slightest. He's going to get some love tonight. Averaging 18 real-life points per game this season. I like this ad for the Portland Trailblazers when they went and got him last year. Had the little ups and downs last season. Early on this season, he looks really good for this team, averaging 18 real-life points. He's playing really well right now. See the game log in his last few games. Also, the Lakers' D is just not good. We don't know if Anthony Davis is in or out tonight. So putting him in your lineup can maybe also help as one of the guys you have for flexibility if you have to make late moves and things like that. So that is something to be cognizant of. I don't know when we're going to find out about AD, but it is out there and something you should take a look at. He's been playing well. I like Norman Powell as a player. Like, I look at like my Milwaukee Bucks and think he'd be at a great addition there. He's the kind of guy that kind of fills in admirably anywhere, whether he's your fourth, fifth, or sixth guy. He's just a nice, solid 3-and-D player. He's got a little offensive game to boot right there. And at 4,800 against this defense, I'm all about it. That's it, guys. That's what I got for Saturday. Click that thumbs up button. Grab a membership if you want it. I'll talk football with you later. Appreciate you all. Have a great day.